about your process, and if, you know, we're doing 3 alternatives, and we're maybe being asked to present to a neighborhood group in an open forum. We would rather vet these alternatives with the committee and the stakeholders, so that we don't get too far over our skis to where we're showing something that you can't afford, and it's maybe outside of the rail, so to speak. So pricing and cost estimation goes along with all of our site plans and alternatives, so that we have an informed decision. Again, our experience working on some of these hotel projects and other master plan projects is you can't make a decision without having all the information in front of you. And that's what you're charging us to do, is bring you the relevant information. It's much more than square footage and adjacencies. It's, can we do this? We love it, can we do it? And then we get that all the time.
I should put a footnote that it wasn't clarified on the original proposal, but we have Leyland Saylor Associates on our team for cost estimating. I've worked with them for many, many years. I gave Gordon a list of their profile, but have done probably 3-4 dozen civic centers and costing them. But I did a master plan for the state government offices in the Sacramento region with them, and as broad a master plan it was, because it was for 5, 10, 40 years forward of property and assets and multiple departments and programming for that. We could get down, we had a project manager like detail, being a state government, and talked about the finishes we costed for the janitors. Closet, wouldn't you believe? But that's the dedication that I know I have with our team members, that, you know, if the client feels that's an important detail, we'll go down and look at that. And, but still understanding the broader perspective of what we're aiming at for a master plan.
Any other questions from committee members?
Well, you didn't really answer Steve's question about what you see as the most significant challenges.
Well, there were 2, I think, 2. He asked my hotel, but so we can go.
Yeah, I heard that slide.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have 2 slides here. This is the site issues. Did we want to
Go to the analysis.
Okay. So now we have a whole bunch of slides to try to address all your questions. So if you humor me a minute, I'm going to try to make sure I find the right slide. And should we hand these out? No. Okay. So we have, let me show you this. Project challenges.
That'd be the overall, the circulation.
Oh, okay, so you want to go straight to the analysis. So we did a little response to your questions. Steve,
Thank you.
and, I'm sorry, okay, here we go. So, let's start with the site. There we go.
You want to zoom up on that so Bob can talk about it?
This is the overview.
Yeah.
We did some quick analysis of 3, looking at site development, circulation, and landscape. And those were just highlights, these bullet points of what we saw were issues for site development. There's a lot of pavement on your site, the high permeability, which impacts stormwater and other issues when we do the master plan, the efficiency of the layout of the parking and facilities, and new current regulations that have occurred since you've improved the property. Circulation parking, we'll look at the issues of clarifying the circulation, the parking accommodations, and all transit modes, meaning not only train and bus and bicycle, but also those who are less mobile. And then finally, landscape and amenities, and how we combine the issues of preserving the trees while still creating a civic realm and providing more amenities. So for the site development, one thing we always do from the start is really just analyze what do you have here? How is the land developed? And if you take the paved areas, 45%, and the building footprint, you have more than 50% of non-green landscaped area. That's a very high percentage for a very town that sees itself as rural, if you will. And triggers other issues for the new stormwater regulations we talked about with retention ponds, which we don't want to do. And that's why Christine and I will work very carefully with BKF, our civil engineers, on trying to ameliorate that. The building footprint, while it's a small percentage of your site, you have 11 structures of a mere 22,000 square feet. So that tells you something about the multiple structures that's not efficient, you know, it needs whoever's in them, and the maintenance and cost, etc., wayfinding, it makes things very complicated to operate and maintain. And then finally, the landscape, you know, if you look at it, there's very limited areas of where the buildings are integrated into the landscape approach and using the outdoors, and Christine will talk about that a little bit more. Did you want to talk about site?
I think the most difficult part of your site are the number of entrances to the site. Having spent many hours in this portable over here for my clients, it's such a confusing, there's no real entrance to the site. There's no real sense of arrival. You drive through parking lots to get to a certain building. So 3 roads that come in, it seems like they're actually cutting your site up into little tiny pieces. And I'm not sure what the solution is just yet, but we're wondering if it's even possible to move these roads.
We can move roads.
Oh,
We have the authority to move roads. Hunting, we can move roads. The council can move roads.
Yeah, we can. Station Lane is ours.
Right.
That's the street that goes across here. If we decided to use that for some other purpose, you know, some of the residents might be a little upset, especially the ones that live around here, but we have the,
Well, it depends on how it's moved
We
or,
have
you know,
trained
what other, I
Do you-
mean, obviously.
Do you also have the authority to put up sound walls?
Sound walls.
sidewalks.
To the tracks.
I
We worked
think
on-
we could, if we had the money, to our sidewalks.
We worked on a project down in Santa Barbara near the Biltmore, and part of the way to appease the neighbors was to put up sound walls, because some houses faced right to the resort, some houses faced toward the Amtrak tracks, and that was part of the whole solution. But again, looking at your site, it's cut up into all these smaller pieces, and I think if the roads were rearranged, you'd have one large, nice site
Yeah.
where we could create a sense of place, create a sense of arrival, and really make it a town center. Early on in our discussions, we talked about the idea of a town green or a village green, which obviously you would never do in Mountain View or Palo Alto or even Portola Valley, but I think here in Atherton, where it's such a rural environment, and it's really the only town in the whole area, and I think that's the beauty of Atherton, is that it is a town. And so if we can make these nice outdoor spaces, take away these roads, make these nice outdoor spaces, I think it would be a place people would see as the heart of the town.
I think we have the authority, maybe not the money, but we have the authority to do that, including sidewalks, I believe. But, you know, first of all, we have to make sure we knew where the railroad was going to go, which is not really being decided. And they own some of this land over here.
Right.
So, you know, we'd have to be careful, that would be, but I think that's an interesting thought, quite interesting, actually.
I think the trees are both a challenge and an asset. You know, I mean, there's some very beautiful big oak trees and other trees on the property. So the challenge for us as designers is figure out a way to keep those because they provide instant scale and character to the place. And just, you know, develop the design around them in a way that highlights them even more, makes them a feature for the landscape. In addition, you have this perimeter, the sort of west, south, and east edge bordering on residential. So the real key is maintaining the buffer that exists and actually enhancing it so that you're.
I mean, and the other thing is that where the present library stands, if we decided that can be bulldozed, and that area could be used for, you know, as part of whatever it is that we decide to do.
Right. Yeah, that's the closest to the edge. So yeah, I think enhancing the buffer along those perimeter edges and then between the site and the railroad tracks will be very important.
Did you have more questions about this?
I didn't want to monopolize it, so I would like to hear the answer to Steve's question about how hotel design qualifies you to design the civic center.
as Don started to say a while ago, and Don, you can jump in, like a hotel, a civic center has many functions. Police station, the library, the town hall. And so we see that very much like a hotel. For example, in Santa Barbara Biltmore, where there is a library, there's not a town hall, but there is meeting space and other public functions that all have to work together. And the goal is to arrange those spaces in such a way as to create outdoor spaces. And again, I think the Santa Barbara Biltmore is probably the best example of a project we've done incorporating historic architecture like this building with new buildings. And you probably don't know it, but there are many new buildings on that site, but they all match. But I think the core of the answer is, like a hotel, a civic center has many separate functions.
Well, and what you may or may not know with hotels is that there is what we call a front of the house, which is the very public side of a hotel, which is the lobbies and conference facilities. There's also what we call the back of the house, which are, there's a whole army running the hotel. Offices, general manager, accounting, all the facilities that a civic center would have from an administrative standpoint. Security is very important. We have a complete security check-in, and while it's not a police station, these are adjacencies and program functions that need to work together. And the answer about hotel guys knowing something about what you do, I believe we do. We understand how important it is to integrate all this. And what our message is, not only do we understand it, we do it day in and day out, we're going to create a space and a heart for this community that you wouldn't have seen with any other architectural and landscape firm. We truly want to bring an experience and an efficiency to what your dreams are for this, that, as Bob said, you're not going to get in any other towns or cities around us. But this is truly a unique opportunity to really try to get out and do something completely different.
So how much would you draw on the school's experience in urban city planning
Well,
and all of that?
I mean, you could make, you have public roads, you have infrastructure. I don't know where some of those utilities are yet, but we will, and we're out working on it. And so we can, it's forming the bigger realm, the public realm of understanding how to make infrastructure and public works, get implemented. Understand the sustainability aspect of a larger district plan. Very different from doing a single building. How you approach that, because the building orientations, how buildings are grouped together impacts breezes and sunlight, etc. So modeling that with the heritage trees, etc., it's a very different exercise than looking at a singular building design. So for me, the team we put together, I know all the engineers intimately know how to work and craft a very specific solution for our clients. Christine, I consider her firm to be one of the best in a very enduring design. This project, it's been how many decades since you built a real significant project here? So this project is really a legacy project in which, perhaps another 50 years before something this significant gets built. So how you locate those buildings, what that approach is and the roads is critically important, So I used to say even years ago, for me, what took me from being an architect to an urban planner was feeling, understanding that how you orient the streets and the buildings means when someone gets up and goes to the street to work every day, what view they see, the breeze, the sun on their face. I mean, this is our day-to-day experience. And we talk a little bit more detail in our approach, but we take that very much to heart.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just such of a dual project. It's not, the only thing we could come up with was a New England Village Green aspect of what you have here. And the issue is you're looking for almost an identity. If you look at all those pictures there, it's very random, what the message is. There's a big corporate commercial sign, there's a lovely historic light post, but the lighting is dangerous, right? Someone got hurt trying to repair them. The lighting it gives is probably not appropriate to today's environment with night sky, darkness, and residential area. And you have different architecture styles here. So you know, they take it for granted, their great talent of what they do on each of their projects, but what Bob and Don bring is being able to bring out the essence of what your project would be and really fine tuning that design. You know, you have to get it right, and it's about scale, and that, I have to say, I've seen, you know, you've done a few proposals over the many years, and sometimes it just didn't look right to me as a design professional, the proportions weren't right, but this is your chance to do it right, the street lighting, you know, the landscaping, you know, and really crafting something that'll go for many decades. So that's why we feel this is a unique approach, but we're so excited about it because we feel we can really bring so much to the table on creating a space unique to Atherton.
We're all really excited about it.
Yeah, we are.
We're ready to start designing. And I think, you know, what's unique about our team is that the HDS is respecting the landscape architect as being an integral part of the planning process, which is, most of our projects are like that. We like to work with architects that respect what we bring to the table, and we can really bring all of our knowledge and experience and perspectives to the table when we're coming up with a basic plan.
So before you ask another question, can we maybe ask, did you want to make a question, Steve?
No.
Paul? Paul does.
Well, I'm just wondering if you have more slides that relate to any site-specific issues that we haven't seen. That'd be
We
helpful.
kind of jumped around a little
Yeah.
bit because of the conversation. It's really, it was just the site analysis, the circulation. We didn't really talk about parking, but, I mean, for instance, for me, I never came to your city hall before until a few months ago, and I thought for sure I had the wrong turn coming off of El Camino. There must have been the traffic light back there, not this little road, residential road. But even when you get here, there's no sense of arrival. And then all of a sudden you realize I just passed it, that you drove by the parking, and then where do you park? Are you allowed to park in Caltrain? It's a very confusing thing for the visitor. And I understand that maybe on a typical day you don't really have too many visitors or want too many outside visitors, but it you know, with the fresh eyes, you can start to see some of the issues that others might feel in the community. It's not very clear. And you have an asset that hasn't been brought up, but, you know, Holbrook Park is there, and I commend you for trying to bring the library here to create more synergies for the site here. But also, there should be some nod to that and how you see the two facilities working together in concert, perhaps, you know, because of the parking, because of open space, active, passive, large events for your community. If you want to change some of that programming, there doesn't seem to be too much here. It's very passive, and I think that's generally the right approach. But we seek to really program outdoors as well as the indoors for this site, and make sure that when you arrive at any of these gateways, it's pretty clear where you turn and that you have arrived. But it should be subtle, you know, it's not, you know, so it's a unique thing. It's more resort than a typical city street. You know, we're not looking to line up the streets diagonally and line everything up and put curbs in. So that's why we see it as a great design opportunity.
Okay. Thank you. Any other committee member? Any questions from our staff? City manager, Clyde?
If we've got a moment, I'm really impressed with how much thought you put to the site circulation, the master planning, and how that relates to the architecture and how the two work together. But I think I'd like to hear just a little bit more about how you would get the Atherton residents involved. We've talked about how difficult it is, and we know it's difficult. But do you have any? You know, you worked here an awful long time. Do you have any thoughts on the best way to, or the best bucket of ways that we can use to get the message out, get people involved, get them excited?
You're up for the challenge.
We're definitely up for the challenge.
Tea social in the afternoon and gin and tonics for afternoon on Friday, I don't know. As a planner, you know, there's been evolving changes on public outreach right now. So you have the website, you use it, might be not updated exactly right, but it seems like you have a lot of information. It's pretty impressive and very direct links. It's not so embedded, so I think that's an easy thing. We typically besides the town hall meetings, but we could do digital surveys, I think. I don't know, it might have been in the pre-bid, someone talked about there's mailing lists of people who want information on the town. That's one way we could do it digitally. So for the folks who are up to speed on that, we could certainly send postings on that. So you had mentioned the monthly reports that we might do of an update. We can do a friendly update, not too long because people don't want, just enough that you have in the magazines now and, about 6 sentences of where we are.
If we could have some semi-controversial things here, we'd get a lot more.
Okay, we could do a
We're
bait
trying
and
to
switch.
That might be one way of splitting
Yes.
people together, usually we get a big turnout for people who are against them.
Let me kind of throw out a couple of ideas. I mean, we're kind of throwing you a question and asking you to tell us something, but, we've lived in the community. We just experienced with the library wanting to go into the park, and the library committee really did, an effort to hold, I think, 3 or maybe even 4 town meetings. They sent out mailers, they sent glossy things, they, held what they called town hall meetings, and, maybe 50 people showed up, at various things. One of the things that really does work is to go out into the various neighborhoods. We have like 9 precincts, 9 like areas, and to go into their neighborhoods. We've got a neighborhood, West ATHERTON, west of Alameda, and we don't get a lot of those residents coming down, with the interest. But if you get a key neighbor, leader in that neighborhood to host a gathering, maybe you'll get 5 to 15 people. Okay, not an enormous amount of people, but you go there and you do your little dog and pony show, or you say, tell us about what you think we should be doing here. How would you like to create the heart of Atherton? We want to create a there, because we don't have a there. And so then you do that, but you've got to do it maybe, for the rest of these little communities. And even if you get 5 or 10 people showing up, they will then go and say, we went to their neighbors, and that word spreads around. And so that's kind of the community outreach that I think will take us from a AAA community, which is, come on, Phil, help me. Apathetic.
Aloof, and apathetic.
Yeah. Apathetic, aloof, and affluent. We've got a AAA community here. 2, our AAE community, which is enthusiastic, energetic, and engaged. Okay, or something. Empowered. I keep forgetting that. We haven't refined those yet, but that's just come out of these little interview processes.
That's great.
So-
That's a great idea.
So that's the amount of effort, that we're talking about. Now, it's hugely expensive to have all 4 of you guys go to every one of those. But if we, as a committee, can be equipped with some of the tools to host them ourselves, then to feed back to you. I mean, is that
You
a
can cluster
possibility?
them, absolutely.
Yes.
And,
You see
you're
what I'm
right.
Yes. I suspect the people who live around here, though, will be.
Oh, the Cara neighborhood will be
Yes,
very involved.
intimately involved in
They're
this
very
project.
vocal.
There will be decisions taken.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly. But if we can show them that we're gonna try to mitigate whatever traffic impact they are currently having,
Right.
I mean, I don't think we anticipate creating more traffic or more density in our new civic center. Do you, Dee Dee? I mean, for the next 10, 15?
If we do, it's never gonna happen.
It will never happen. I mean, so to kind of plan for increased density or increased traffic to where, the residents, I mean, maybe we're going to increase our post office attendance or public events, because to create that,
A
new
nicer
and-
community center. building,
Right. And then
But
that's
you know,
more.
sometimes that's a good thing.
That is a good thing.
It's a good thing.
We're
You're
hoping.
coming together and, yeah.
Yeah, and so,
Well,
that's,
And we're used to working in front of 150 people or 5. So I think really, we look to take your lead on maybe where the focus needs to be. And then as you say, if it's a a small percentage of your committee working with one of us as opposed to all four of us,
Mhm.
or you need all four of us at some point, it doesn't matter. That's the service that we'll provide to you guys. But again, understand, you guys know the hot spots and certainly the issues at hand here, so that's where we'll rely on you.
Well,
Any
a hottest
comments?
spot will definitely be local in here, there's no question about that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We saw that with the park.
Mhm.
But I think that Elizabeth's absolutely right. We're going to need to go out to a dozen different small communities. But I think once we do that, there's going to be an opportunity for 3 or 4 larger meetings. Because once you've engaged people and they understand it, like your clients don't even know this is happening, it's true of all of our neighbors. And few people really know about it. And we haven't done much to publicize it, or we haven't yet hired a consultant, but it's about to happen. And more people will know about it, and as they meet with us when we go around, they're gonna be, some of them, a good number of them are gonna be willing to come together, and some of their neighbors who have heard about it. But people have opinions in this community, there's no question about it.
Yeah, so, anyway, so with that being said, just kind of laying that out there. Any other comments from committee members on anything that we've talked about? Well, gosh, it's very impressive. And, like I say, it is an exciting project, small project, compared to all, the downtown Fremont Center. But anyway, well.
You know, and the Tamala, how long was that? I mean, how many?
7 years.
7
The
years.
house
that
took 7
house.
years to do.
And the owner came by our office the other day to make sure everyone in the office knew about it, and the project team was so excited. There's such enthusiasm, so it's a different approach because each one is a special, we use special commitment to those projects. It doesn't matter, nothing really comes on the same schedule, particularly public projects. Fremont was supposed to be 9 months, it took a couple of years, and we still met every week. And they were getting very comfortable, you see me every week. But I was like, okay, it's time now. We need to get building it, so, yeah, we're committed. Thank you for having us.
Well, thank
Yes,
you. You
thank
have
you.
other handouts for us
Yeah.
that you were going to give us?
This is just some of these descriptive notes and site analysis.
Okay.
That we had, just so that
That you have
you're
those.
going away.
Yeah, thank you.
And understand, we haven't, we're not living here
I think I
in
just-
Tennessee, but that was our first blush.
Well, thank you again
Thank you.
for understanding. Thank you very much.
I have a completely unrelated question. Whose idea was it to outsource the building? Because that was such a wonderful idea. It's such
Building
a,
department.
yes, it's such an efficient process.
So this gentleman was mayor at the time, and we were having, really, significant imbalance in
Right.
our finances and revenue, expenses and revenue. And I was on council, and so was council, so we, worked together and said, this is, but yeah,
It is 100% more efficient.
yeah.
That's great.
There's some, trade-offs because we don't have our old employees who were very dedicated to the town, who were really kind of almost more eyes and ears on the ground in the construction projects because they were very invested in that. But then what we don't have is the little functions. So it is a much more professional.
Congratulations, because it works very well.
Yeah.
I experienced both sides of that. So
Oh, good, okay. Great, that's good feedback.
it is good.
Did you hear that, Jim? Good feedback about the building department.
Yes.
The-
Excellent.
Yes, the outsourcing, that's worked really well.
We have many residents that think we're getting better service now, contractors, than we ever did from our own employees.
Well, and it grows, it expands, and it
I
contracts
can tell you
according
firsthand
to
that's true.
according to
And
the
I
need.
I walk around town, I talk to quite a few builders, every one of them is,
Yeah.
and they're quite impressed with that.
Would they be local?
I'll
You can
add
cover
my
all
vote to
the
that,
ones,
because it
but,
works very well.
Thank you. Sure. Yes.
We'd love to have.
I like